Get ready to uncover how schools manipulate students' thoughts, stifle their potential, and how politicians steal money in the future of America from kids. Welcome to the JB Social.
Hello, this is the Operation Anti-Indoctrination podcast. I am your host, JB. All right, we got a great show for you today. Really looking forward to getting into it. We got a new twice a week Operation Anti-Indoctrination. Check us out on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Radio Public, Deezer, etc. Anything that you can really think of, we will probably be there. So, let's get into it today. It's been an interesting couple of days. Got a few stories to get to. Then I want to get into some really interesting history that I think you're going to find quite fascinating. Just how far back this communist scheme in our schools, which we talked about a little bit last episode, goes. How far back this scheme to turn America's children into communist puppets goes in history. So, all right, let's get right into it without further ado. This is a little late on this story. This story was from about 10 days ago. But in Tennessee, parents were asked in a school district to sign a waiver, a legal document basically, to not eavesdrop on kids' online lessons. Can you believe that schools wanted to force parents to say they will not listen in on what their kids are being taught in their quote-unquote educations? Incredible story where this is quite the transparent attempt to literally alter the way education is, to alter it where we have this monolithic school system that is going to be telling kids what to think without any parental involvement, without any parental influence, without any familial influence, without anyone anywhere influencing what their kids are learning except for the government, for this massive public school system, which is going to now be the arbiter of truth and facts, and it will tell you what to think. It will not tell you how to think. So, I'll get into the story here. We have Rutherford County Schools, after significant backlash, was allowed parents to tune in. However, the teacher had to know, they had to have permission, and they can't record. So if the teacher says, I don't know, some communist or socialist propaganda, well, no one needs to know that, right? There'll be no record of it. No one will have recorded it. No one will know. Because you can't record. If you're a parent, you can listen in if the teacher knows. If no one's listening in, the teacher's still free to do whatever he or she wants. But if you're listening in, you still have no way of proving anything the teacher said. So it's a blatant, transparent attempt to mess with education, to mess with how education works, which, what do you expect from the school system? This is a corrupt, horrible system that is, it's been building this for decades. It's been building this really, some would say, for hundreds of years. Some would say they're propagandists at heart, all of them. The teachers maybe not realizing they are, but that's what's happening. And that's why, again, get the kids out of school, homeschool. It's still legal, still kicking. After a couple decades of a mass homeschooling revolution, it's still legal. They have not infringed on it yet. So get your kids out while you can. Homeschool them. It will be a infinitely better experience. You can save them from a life of indoctrination and dumbing down where they will be turned into illiterates or people who hate reading, just like so many of my friends do. All right, let's move on a little bit here. So, the Trump administration has stressed the need for, quote, restoring patriotic education in our school system. This is what the Trump administration, presumably his Department of Education, says. Now, I don't think they've put forth any specific policy proposals, but it is pretty obvious, I guess, that our schools have quite the lack of Americanism or patriotism, and I can say that from a first-hand view because I have been berated over the years by being told that my country is terrible, my history is terrible, everything about America, it just sucks, right? You need to feel guilty for being an American. You need to feel guilty for having a heritage here, for having ancestors here, for having a past here, because those people were all terrible, evil, racist, sexist, fill in the blank, whatevers. Well, now we have Now we have even the Trump administration who's saying, hey guys, we should probably stop force feeding hating America, stop force feeding this, have some American exceptionalism, if you will, that evil thing where you acknowledge your country's successes, right? So that's, interesting. I don't know. I don't think there's any specific policy proposals. I don't think that the Trump administration has all that much power over his Department of Education or even average public schools, because here's the thing. Yes, he appoints the head of the Department of Education, Betsy DeVos. We all love Betsy DeVos, right? But he appoints the head of the Department of Education and all that. But he doesn't replace any of the administrators in it that are crafting all this. He didn't replace them. So I don't see how this is going to have any influence, but it is interesting to get some to know that I guess somebody realizes what's happening with the school system, where you have America hatred, you have globalism, you have cultural relativism, where you're told that everyone's equal. Afghan culture, American culture, it's all the same. It's all equal. None's better than any others. Garbage like that is refutable in about 2 sentences, I guess, where it's being taught in our schools. Indoctrinated, we're being dumbed down, where you're getting dumber. I don't know if this is a bit off topic. I didn't intend to get into this, but it's interesting if you look at, for instance, IQ scores. And by the way, we know IQ is very indicative of success, right? IQ scores have been plummeting pretty much across the board within the last few decades, after a very long time of them basically getting better. But now we're all getting dumber, and it's not just IQ, it's music. If you look at music, everything is getting dumber. Everything around us is getting dumber. We have presidents that are getting dumber. You have Trump, and then you had who is doesn't speak at exactly a very high level of grammar. We'll just say that, regardless of your opinion on him. I think that's pretty easy to acknowledge. Then you had Obama before him, and Bush, and then Clinton, and so on, where they literally have gotten dumber. If you look at analyses of what they say, they have gotten dumber. Everything around us, everything around you is getting dumber. Nobody reads anymore. The movies are just collages of weird, crazy scenes or whatever. Everything is getting dumber. Everything is getting so much dumber. And in my opinion, in my humble opinion, the school system is the cause of this. The school system is the cause of a mass dumbing down, where being smart is, well, it's pretty optional, right? Very, very optional. Literacy, all that fun stuff. Yeah. Fun times we live in. Really fun times we live in, where we're getting dumber. Aren't human brain? I feel like I've seen this before. Aren't our brains literally getting smaller? Here, let me search that up. Yeah, our brains are literally becoming smaller. I mean, that's pretty great, isn't it? Our brains are actually decreasing in their size, as funny as that is. Good stuff, really good stuff, yeah. Yeah, and we know about this, and all right. So I'm gonna guess that over the last, let's just say, 6 months, who knows what it's been on now? When did this lockdown craziness start? Like March or something? I'm gonna guess that most people haven't been all that healthy. We'll just say haven't been all that healthy, whether it's snacking or stress eating or whatever. Somewhat understandable, but not good. Well, now that school's back on and millions of kids are back in school, we have school lunches to worry about again, where they stuff you full with garbage. Now, earlier today, we recorded an animated episode that'll be out in like a week and a half or something, where we talked in depth about the school lunches, but I would like to briefly mention them just because I think it's a very, very important issue and one we don't talk about enough. Where you have kids being stuffed with garbage every day, where you have, first of all, you have fruits and vegetables that taste like crap, and they're all thrown into the trash. So no one likes fruits and vegetables in the first place. But then you have these horrible foods where it's it's all processed and it's made by some massive corporation that has monopolized the system. There's a few different companies. I don't remember their names, but they control the system basically. They run it in a monopoly. They've monopolized the system. I don't know why we haven't broken them up yet or whatever. But the kids are the ones that lose out in the end because we're being fed garbage. You look at the pizza. You know what? If just go on Twitter, literally go on Twitter and search up school lunch, and you know, if you look at all the pictures, it's horrible. The stuff that they're feeding our kids, and I've seen it. You know, I've had. I don't really want to tell this story, but like, I found weird stuff in like pizza and all that. You know, back when I had that, and I was in like first grade or something. I've found all sorts of interesting stuff in the food that I eat, if you can believe that. You know, it's like. It makes McDonald's look like a luxury dining place, right? All that fun stuff. All right. You ready for some history? You ready? Because I'm ready. I'm ready to get into some history here. Let's go. Let's go. So, what you had in the 1920s and 30s, and even 40s, to be honest, was this massive craze. This craze by our academic elite about the Soviet Union, about this great new nation that was trying out this wonderful, you know, clearly wonderful new idea of communism that was going to make everything better. It was going to transform America, and it was going to eventually take over the whole world in a glorious revolution where we would have a utopian equity in society, and everyone would be happy and virtuous and, you know, altruistic. So many people in academia, in Stanford University, Columbia University, and even the Communist Party of the United States connected this to education. They said, well, if we're going to have this great utopia, let's get the schools in on it. Let's get the schools in on it. Now, these were not crazy people they pulled off the street. These were very influential people. They were the ones that were teaching the teachers. They were the ones that were educating the educators, that were giving out the PhDs and the master's degrees and the bachelors. They were the ones that were literally controlling future generations. It's amazing how so few people had such a massive influence, because if you look at all the people they taught and all the influence they had, if you go down the line, it really extends to pretty much every teacher in America. So if you look at it, if you take an average teacher in America, they have probably gotten the progressive communist indoctrination while they're in teachers college. And I'm a little curious as to what precisely goes on there, because I know it's not good. It can't be anything good, and I've heard some stories that are really interesting. I'll have to share them at some point. They're in a lot. You can find them in some articles too, where you have a lot of interesting stories about what the teachers are actually going through that makes them such indoctrinators and such propagandists. But anyway, all right, let's get into this. No more. We have to go through some of these things here. So, first of all, and this is all taken from a book called Dumbing Down of America, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America by Charlotte Iserbyt. You can look it up and find it in a PDF. So first here, we have a book called International Understanding, published by John Harley. He was I believe a teacher at Stanford. It was published by the Stanford University Press. And he got a guy named Paul Manitou to write the foreword. Now, I'd like to quote from this foreword because I think you'll find it very remarkable and very interesting. This is from 1931, not 2000, not the 60s, 1931. Quote, "And the builder of this new world must be education. Education alone can lay the foundation on which the building is to rest. On this point, a kind of consensus has been reached by those who trust the future of international cooperation and those who refuse to believe in it. When the latter go on about repeating that to succeed in such a task, one would have to change human nature, they do but exaggerate the acknowledged need for a gradual and patient reshaping of the public mind. How can a well-prepared elite be raised throughout the world to spread its influence over the masses, who can then support them in their turn? Here we encounter the real problem, and it is essentially a problem of education. During the last decade of the 19th century in England, a group of men devoted to the study of economic problems endeavored to prepare the public mind for broad changes which, in their view, must be effected if social peace is to be preserved. To this end, they founded the London School of Economics and Political Science, which today ranks among the most famous institutions of education. In our day, the problem has become more far-reaching still. Brutal events have supplied evidence of a truth that had been slowly gaining ground, namely the independence of nations and the need for establishing in the world an order and harmony hitherto lacking, unquote. How about that? So, we must build a new world with education. We must build a new world and slowly reshape human nature in order to further our agenda. That's what this guy's saying. And we're having an international understanding where we're going to have some sort of singular world peace organization, which is supposedly going to be made through education. And this is in 1931. That is, in my opinion, pretty incredible. Where we have such incredible utopianism in America and France in the 1930s, when supposedly, we're told communism was out of fashion in that time. We're told communism didn't come into fashion until the last decade, but if you look at it, it's been brewing for a very, very long time. The communists have been very well thought out in their plans of globalism and all that. All right, another book here. A guy named Professor George Counts, a teacher at Columbia University, wrote a book called Dare the School Build a New Social Order. And he and many other educators, such as John Dewey, who we've talked about, had traveled to Russia multiple times and had become enfranchised, had become truly thrilled with this Soviet system and believed that it was a great experiment that would one day take over the whole world and it would become a world system. It would become the march of history. It would conclude at this wonderful utopia. And by the way, in a coincidence, he was also a member of a Carnegie-financed group called the Commission on the Social Studies, which produced several documents where he recommended new educational ideas. So he wanted the school, literally the title of his book was basically the school should build a new social order. Dare the school do it, We should do it. And he basically advocates blatant communism, where he says, quote, if property rights are to be diffused in industrial society, natural resources and all important forms of capital will have to be collectively owned. This means that if democracy is to survive in the United States, it must abandon its individualistic affiliations in the sphere of economics. Unquote. So basically, the school is going to build a system where everything is collectively owned, where we have no private property, where we have no independent thought, where everything is this monolithic system of total control. That is what these people literally wanted, was control. All right. So this is the best one here. There was a book, I believe it's a book, yeah. It was called Toward a Soviet America. It was published by a guy named William Foster. He was the national chairman of the Communist Party of the United States. And his book says we need a, quote, U.S. Department of Education implementation of a scientific materialist philosophy studies revolutionized being cleansed of religious, patriotic, and other features of the bourgeois ideology. Students taught on the basis of Marxian dialectical materialism, internationalism, and a general ethics of a new socialist society. Present obsolete methods of teaching will be superseded by scientific pedagogy. The whole basis and organization of the capitalist science will be revolutionized. Science will become materialistic, hence truly scientific. God will be banished from the laboratories as well as from the schools. Unquote. Does not get much more radical than that, if I do say so myself. Interesting here. So some interesting stuff we need to break down here, actually. First of all, for interesting here, Department of Education calling for a U.S. Department of Education. that's kind of interesting. You know, if I'd say and they got their way, and they got their way in 1979 with Jimmy Carter. He got it. Jimmy, the boy from down south, got it. He got the good old system. Yeah. And then we have scientific materialist philosophy. Studies revolutionize no religion. You can't have religion. This is the school today. The communists have gotten everything they wanted in our education system, where we have no religion, no patriotism, zero, none. It doesn't exist. And dialectical materialism. Now that's the whole march of history, where we have a glorious communist utopia in the end, after the thesis and the antithesis have battled. We have this great utopia in the end that will exist, and everyone will be happy. Everything will be perfect. And obviously, you know, materialistic science, whatever that means. Right. So after all of this facilitation, really, that's all it was, of Soviet education, we have finally some pushback, some waking up of the American people in the year 1941, where we have a book published by a let me see here, a head of the department in the Philadelphia public school system, head of department in the Philadelphia public school system, by Bessie Burchett. That was her position there. She published a book in 1941 called Education for Destruction, where she finally revealed to some people what was going on. 1941, this is not the 50s or whatever. 1941, where she exposed, based off eyewitness accounts, the communist infiltration of American public schools, which was facilitated, allowed, and encouraged by this academic elite. I pulled up a poster here on my computer, and I'd like to quote it from you, because it's one of the better posters I've seen for a book or something. Here's how it reads. It goes, arresting, disturbing, exciting. Now, for the first time, the amazing story of communists' iniquitous corruption of America's school children. How does the small Soviet minority control loyal teachers in our schools and colleges? How are anti-American, anti-religious, anti-Christ textbooks forced upon teachers and students? Why are Washington and Jefferson ridiculed while Marx and Lenin are canonized in the schools? Why are boys and girls taught free love, sex ed, and other degrading subjects? What's going on in our American schools anyway? The answers to these and other dismaying questions are all found in Education for Destruction, an eyewitness account by Dr. Bessie Burchett, former head of department in the Philadelphia public school system. It is a fearless and devastating expose of communism in America's schools, its concealed objectives, hidden motives, and serpent-like power, and its vicious demoralization of children and adolescents. Every parent, every educator, every clergyman, every patriot should read this book. Unquote. That's a pretty good poster, I must say. Yeah, this is the 1940s, 30s, and 20s. This is not the 50s, 60s, 70s, so on. This is not today. This has been happening for so long, where we have communist infiltration of our school system, which is destroying education for both the kids there and also the teachers in their colleges. The teachers, where they're supposed to be learning how to teach, they're just being told what to teach, what to indoctrinate kids with, what to dumb them down with. We have Soviet infiltration. We had it, and of course it remains today. And now you have Chinese infiltration, which is just as bad, just as nefarious, and just as discreet. Really, it's very discreet. Big problems. Yeah, we have big problems in our country. Geez, and this school system, it's been corrupt for so long. It's been infiltrated. It's been controlled by a bunch of people who do not have any of our best interests at heart, who do not have our nation's best interests at heart, who want to destroy our nation, actually, who hate it to their very core, who detest it, who want to get rid of it, who want to merge this great world of ours into one great utopian society where everyone will be happy and God will be gone. We will have removed his presence. As Nietzsche would say, God is dead. They want, kill God or whatever. That's what's going on in our schools. So pick your side in this. But for now, we're all alone in this. We're all alone in the fight against the school system because we have so few. And I guess I'm glad that President Trump has done this. I think he's missing the point a little bit, but better than nothing, I guess. But yeah, for now, we're all alone, so the only thing you can do is homeschool. That's it. So, yeah. That's about it for today. All right, if you enjoyed this episode and learned a lot, please do like if you're on YouTube and subscribe. You can share this video. You can, copy paste the link or whatever, and share it with a friend. Share it with your parents or your kids or something like that. I don't know. Just share it. Just share it, right? Yeah. You can email me down below. Follow us on social media, Twitter and Instagram, JB Soul Show. And until next time, I've been your host, JB. Have a fantastic day, and see you later.